Part 11. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 101. Putting my master and other disciples in danger, they all live in the secret villa you placed. One person needs to be fully responsible for all this. Garen felt a little complicated for a while. After all, Grace had been with him for so long. Killing a familiar person with his own hands was completely different from killing a stranger outside. After searching Grace's body for a while with his free hand, he found a set of keys, a black leather wallet, a silver pistol, and some documents. Such a beautiful woman was able to do things well, but in the end, she had to kill her. Fortunately, he was not a perverted noble, otherwise it would have been possible to catch Grace and rape her first and then kill her, or to keep her in captivity and train her as a beautiful slave. Slowly putting the body down and carrying it to the side of the trash can, he took out a lighter from his trouser pocket, lit it and threw it into a large bag of shredded paper in the trash can. The fire ignited all of a sudden, and gradually became bigger and bigger, and the white smoke gradually floated upwards. The red flames gradually ignited Grace's clothes, completely wrapping her in the flames. The fair and delicate skin of the corpse gradually turned yellow, exuded oil, turned black, and finally turned into charcoal. There was a strong smell of barbecued meat in the air. Garen watched quietly as Grace's beautiful face was burned beyond recognition before slowly walking out of the alley. All the homeless people lying around in the alley had fallen to the ground and were knocked unconscious by small stones. The concussive force of Garen's current giant elephant secret weapon could easily stun all these homeless people. The smoke in the alley was getting bigger and bigger. Garen left the alley and quickly returned to the round dance gate along the original path. It only took half an hour to go there and back. There was a young girl cleaning with a broom in the yard. After a polite greeting, Garen returned to the room assigned to him and sat at the table where the rare book of secret martial arts was placed. For the time being, no matter what happens in Huaishan City, since Grace is a traitor, the Star Ring sect must know his specific location, and he does not intend to escape. Many warriors from the 12 southern sects gather here, and they are also the most likely to fight against the Star Ring section, the Ring Gate, and the secretly organized place. If he runs away now, he will probably cause trouble to the masters and others in Huaishan. This battle is inevitable. The current situation is very simple. As long as he can block Andrila and support Bayun Gate, everything will be fine. Other forces will not be defeated and dispersed. And once he loses, he is the last hope of Bayun sect, then everything else will be just fat in the eyes of everyone. Putting aside the matter of Grace, he put aside the cold coffee, picked up the secret book of Zhi Gong and opened it carefully. At the same time, the skills column in the field of vision gradually added the option of boulder skill. Boulder Kung Fu, not yet started, 3 levels in total, practice requirements, minimum required data for physical constitution, strength, and agility 1.00. This secret weapon requires 15 years to complete each level. It takes a long time and requires high initial qualifications. This is also the main reason why low-level secret weapons are idle. And one of the most critical reasons for the Great Stone Kung Fu is that the physique, strength, and agility must reach 1.00, and the 1.00 standard is the average standard data for adult men. This means that only adult bodies can meet the basic conditions for practicing this secret martial art. Each level requires 15 years of practice, which is another key difficulty. It takes 15 years to learn a secret martial art, and this secret martial arts is only a low-level 4th-rate martial art. No one is willing to do this. Stupid thing. Garen focused on the description of the completion of the boulder skill. When you have mastered the boulder skill, your body will be as strong as a boulder, and your chi and blood will circulate automatically all the time, which is equivalent to being in the strongest defensive state all the time. Physical fitness and speed will increase significantly. The secret martial art is taken from the indestructible meaning of the huge rocks in the mountains. After it is completed, the chi and blood become integrated, just like the huge rocks that are extremely solid and the mind is calm. It will also have a certain positive impact on the temperament of irritable practitioners. Garin suddenly thought of Garam Lily, and wondered if that cold and hard look was caused by this practice. Maybe not entirely, but borrowing from this technique, he guessed. With the increase in physical fitness speed, will this help improve it? Garin was somewhat looking forward to it. He immediately started to stand up and assume the first posture, and at the same time began to adjust his state according to the breathing method and chi and blood adjustment method explained, and his mind gradually fell into the calm and waveless state mentioned by Mai Wu. But 10 minutes later, Garin suddenly felt a little itchy in his chest and abdomen, as if his internal organs were itchy. Not more than 10 seconds later, the skin and muscles began to gradually itch. Not very itchy, just a little bit. This is very similar to the gong feeling described in the secret book. Only when the itching sensation appears, becomes stronger, and then disappears can it be considered a complete first-level introductory practice. However, the itching sensation was very weak, and Galen guessed that it was caused by practicing at the wrong time. The rock technique required practicing in the middle of the night and early in the morning. It must make sense. Dina City Railway Station. In the dead of night, a gorgeous white train slowly stopped in an empty train station. The door in the middle of the carriage opened, and a series of passengers wearing all kinds of casual clothes slowly got out of the car. Some of these people looked like students, some looked like tourists, some looked like workers, intellectuals, etc. There are all kinds of costumes, but they all have one thing in common, that is, they all wear a silver cross star logo on their chests. After most people got off the bus, 3 men and 2 women finally walked out slowly. Among these 5 people, only one old man looked like he was 60 or 70 years old, and the other 4 were all young people. 3 of the young men calmly followed a long-haired man and slowly got out of the car. We're finally here, Dina City. If we hadn't received news that Garin had come here, we wouldn't have had to change trains in the middle. The long-haired man shook his head slightly helplessly. He has a black eye patch on his left eye and a rare dark golden eye on his right eye. He has long hair that reaches his waist. He wears a large black windbreaker and has a mysterious temperament. How's it going? Andrila, Dina City, this is the territory of the July Gate. Are you confident? The old man looked up at the place name of Dina City hanging above the station. It's not bad. Andrila smiled and gently pressed the thin sword at her waist covered by the windbreaker. Speaking of which, you have been at the level of a fighter for so long. You might have a chance to break through this time, the old man said with emotion and expectation. Andrila still just smiled. Although fighters are far superior to ordinary people, they are classified as inhuman and are not afraid of guns and bullets. Some of the top fighters even think that they are not mortals and regard ordinary people as ants. Although that path is strong, it is not what I want to take. So I've stuck around for a long time. The old man was a little surprised. This was the first time he heard the Star Ring sect disciple express his opinion. Then what path do you want to take? Fighters are divided into good and evil. The difference is that the fighting style is the main one. The good way is bright and unhidden, and uses force to overwhelm others. There are endless secret techniques and secret methods of evil ways. They all have their own merits. I haven't figured out what the third way is yet. But I feel that it is almost D-level. It's not the end. Andrila's eyes flashed with an inexplicable look. Martial arts should be endless. This is also our expectation. The old man patted Andrila on the shoulder, a trace of relief flashed in his eyes. If you are not confused by unnecessary emotions, you are worthy of being my disciple. Andrila shook her head slowly. Teacher, some people and some things are just buried history. I am not the first fighter to embark on this path. I know. The old man nodded. Go and bring the glory of my Star Ring section. This is a battle of unification, and no one can stop you. I think so too. Andrila strode out with a smile, and the other 3 followed him like bodyguards. Late at night. Round dance door. Garen sat cross-legged in the middle of the cold dojo. The muscles all over his body were slowly squirming like a mouse, as if his body was covered with countless earthworms. Fighter, although I have entered this level, I have never been clear about what a true fighter is. He continued to adjust his body's energy, blood, and state according to the techniques of the Great Stone Kung Fu. Sulin once said that a fighter is a warrior who has reached the pinnacle of the human body in a certain aspect. His skills have been refined over time and have no fatal flaws. But is the limit of the human body really only this small? Although I can resist bullets, bombs, and cannonballs are still powerless. Garen slowly raised his hands above his head. Drink. With a low roar, the muscles all over his body suddenly expanded. It was not the expansion of the giant elephant Maiwu, but a small amount of muscle bulging. The warrior who has also reached the limits of the human body, the number 1 young master in the south, Andrila. There was a hint of expectation in Garen's eyes, which was the real expectation for an opponent of the same level. In an instant, the boulder skill slowly jumped on the skill bar in his field of vision. Boulder skill, beginner level, 3 levels in total. Suddenly something moved in his heart. Slowly getting up, Bayun's 4 major forms of fighting skills were slowly taken out. The whole person was immersed in the extreme state of the giant elephant secret martial arts. The combination was no longer the special breathing method of the giant elephant secret martial arts, but the breathing method of the giant stone technique. The giant stone technique and the giant elephant secret martial arts seemed to be reacting, and Garen was immersed in the random combination of the 4 major shapes. The hands, elbows, knees, shoulders and other parts of the body can all use incredible combination techniques. There was a faint roar of elephants in the air. Jushi Gong just showed its entry-level state and then slowly disappeared. The strange thing is that the giant elephant Maiwu also slowly disappeared. It was replaced by a brand new secret weapon, and a symbol slowly appeared behind the secret weapon. Giant elephant mutated secret martial arts, burst level. Garen looked at the symbol at the back. Qi and blood are stable at 1 level, the body's qi and blood are integrated and can counter-attack the opponent. It comes from the boulder skill. It can reach higher levels through the boulder skill. After interpreting the meaning of the symbol, he was a little surprised. The main effect of the giant stone technique is strong defense, and it can be superimposed on the giant elephant secret martial arts. However, there is an additional one that can be cultivated to a higher level through the giant stone technique. But why is the iron body no reaction? I think the iron body should also be able to fuse. He slowly retreated and concentrated on the iron body skill. Suddenly something moved in his heart. He slowly raised his iron body, and slowly started to perform the 4 major forms of boxing. Within a few minutes, the iron body slowly disappeared. The symbol behind the loud mutated secret weapon has changed slightly. It became 2, one with stable qi and blood, and one with hardened epidermis. Qi and blood stability level 1. The body's qi and blood are integrated and can counter-attack the opponent. Derived from the Great Stone Kung Fu. You can reach higher levels through the practice of boulder Kung Fu. Epidermal sclerosis level 1, the skin hardness is improved and can resist high-intensity sharp objects. Derived from iron body. You can reach higher levels through iron body training. Now all the hard Qigong and secret martial arts have been integrated into one, leaving only this mutated secret martial arts. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 102. Garen slowly stretched out his hand and looked at his palm. The slightly swollen palms had a metallic black sheen. He felt that the blood balloon in his body did not release any energy and blood to assist the body's expansion. This feeling is not the full strength of the giant elephant secret weapon when it expands, but it is stronger than the normal situation. The body expansion is not large, even if it is in a state. Garen waved his arm hard and felt that the hardness of his skin was almost half of what it was when he was at full strength. At the same time, it is equivalent to nearly twice the normal form. Since he attained the mastery of the giant elephant secret martial arts, he can now unleash his full strength, which is equivalent to 4 times the normal defense. This terrifying hard Qigong allows him to block the attacks of most martial artists with just his eyelids. Slowly relaxing his body, Garen's huge body of nearly 1.9 meters gradually shrank as if deflated, returning to a height of just over 1.7 meters. In his normal state, he just looks like a stronger, normal person. It's just because of his overly strong physique that he no longer looks like a 17-year-old boy, but more like an adult. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly there was a rapid knock on the wooden door of the dojo. Senior Brother Garen. Oh no, the people from the Star Ring Gate are here, Imlalai's voice came from outside the door. Star Ring door. Andrila, Garen walked over and opened the locked wooden door. Imlalai looked flustered outside the door and was still wearing a black nightgown. Don't worry, how is the situation now? Garen asked in a low voice. I don't know. All the people from the Star Ring Gate stayed in the hotel near the train station, but no one saw the leader Andrila. What should I do, Brother Garen? Imlalai was a little at a loss. Our 12 southern sects are all targets of the Star Ring section. Don't forget that there is also the July sect and the Red Obsidian sect that has joined them. The 2 sects will definitely not be vegetarians. Let's see the results first. Besides, there's no rush. Garen comforted with a smile and gently rubbed Imlalai's head. Feeling Garen's unworried relaxed mood, Imlalai couldn't help but slowly relax and become less anxious. In fact, she didn't know why she was in such a hurry. She just heard that the Star Ring Gate was coming to her door and panicked. The Star Ring sect sets out in an upright manner, challenges sects, and fights head-on. They follow an upright route. If they want to unify the entire southern martial arts world, they must abide by the rules of the general environment, otherwise they will only get a mess. So as long as they face the enemy in an upright manner, we don't have to worry about other back UPS. After all, Star Ring sect is very confident in its own strength. Garen said lightly. If my guess is correct, Andrila should have faced the July Gate by now. He looked vaguely in the direction of the July Gate headquarters, with an inexplicable look flashing in his eyes. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of hurried footsteps densely surrounded a 3-story small hotel near the train station. There were police cars all around, completely isolating this large area. Under the night, a cold-faced young man was wearing a black leather jacket, with silver hair shawl, and an unusually handsome face. Coupled with a slender waist and slender legs, the whole person showed a kind of neutral beauty, if it were not for the Adam's apple and chest. It is estimated that no one will think that he is a man. The man's eyes were calm and he slowly wore a black and red metal glove, which was full of spikes and looked extremely ferocious. Director Karan, I'm asking you to help isolate me this time, he said calmly. A middle-aged man with a big belly next to him smiled and nodded. Minister Shia is so polite. It is my honor to be able to help the July group. It is also an honor for me, Karan. Moreover, the governor of the city government has stated that he will fully cooperate with all the affairs of the July group. This is also the obligation of our city police department. The handsome man known as Minister Shia nodded, said no more, and waved his hand. Suddenly, groups of men in black costumes neatly opened a small opening to let him in. Shia walked into the encirclement and looked up at the window on the 3rd floor of the white building. Ki Wemensai Ludani came here specially to greet Senior Brother Star Ring Andrila, and please come out to see him. His voice is clear and neutral, with a feminine softness and a masculine firmness, giving people a strange sense of coldness. There was no noise around. Hundreds of people in black surrounded the small building, but no sound came out at all. Even the police officers on the periphery could not help but lower their voices due to the tense atmosphere. The small building was quiet, and no one answered. Shia sneered. Thanks to the Xin Huan sect at the exchange meeting, Senior brother Lila came to Ardina city this time. As a landowner, of course I have to treat you well. Don't all the senior brothers and sisters of the Star Huon sect give me the face of Shia? There was still no sound in the small building. Shia's face looked a little ugly. Since senior brother doesn't want to come out by himself, then I will personally ask you to come out. Several small black daggers slowly appeared in the hands of several men in black around them, with cruel sneers on their faces. They are one of the most elite core teams of the Ki section. Unlike other small sects, the Ki sect can develop so big and the Ki group can occupy the forefront in the entire province. It is because of teams like them that the world has been established. Amidst the sound of soft footsteps, more than a dozen men in black rushed towards the entrance of the small building. Before he could rush to the door, a silver light suddenly lit up, drawing a semicircle. More than 10 people shouted in unison and flew back. A thin slit was exposed on each person's body, but it only cut through the clothes and did not hurt the body. At the entrance of the small building, a young man with purple hair slowly walked out. He was wearing white clothes and a cross star on his chest. If you want to see senior brother, you have to pass our test. He stared at Shia in front of everyone calmly, with a trace of solemnity flashing in his eyes. One of the 4 rings of the star ring gate, Scylla, he signed up slowly and in a low voice. Then 2 figures, one tall and one short, slowly walked out from behind, namely a tall woman and a short and thin boy. Scylla, Shia narrowed her eyes into a line, her whole body sharp and cold. I've heard for a long time that there are always 4 people in the 4 rings of the star ring gate. Why is there one missing now? He knew very well that the 4th ring was the 4 strongest people in the Star Ring sect, ranked below Andrila, and they were also the 4 most promising to compete for the position of senior brother. Their strength was definitely not that of an ordinary minion. It's okay not to mention this, but when it comes to mentioning this, the 3 people's faces look a little ugly. Ni Shixing is not good at academics, and he is asking for it if he is killed. If you dare to speak to my Star Ring sect like this, you can let me see what your strength is. Before she finished speaking, Scylla stepped on her foot, spinning her whole body to the left like a top, and rushed into the surrounding team of men in black. Ding ding ding. Amidst a series of metal clashes, most of the men in black were cut by the shadow of the black sword. Only some veterans who reacted in time used daggers to deflect the rapier. More than a dozen men in black counterattacked without retreating, not afraid of cutting with rapiers, and stabbed Scylla fiercely with the daggers in their hands. Ah! A man in black suddenly exited, holding his right hand and screaming. His right palm was cut off from the wrist, and blood flowed to the ground quickly like a fountain. 2 people came immediately from behind to treat his wounds. Get out of the way. Let me do it. Shia's face turned cold, and she rushed out, with a thin dark red line drawn directly from the glove on her hand. Just then, a group of men in black dispersed, revealing a gap for one person to enter and exit in a well-trained manner. Shia punched Scylla in the chest, put the fingers of her right hand together, and silently pointed at her lower abdomen. She attacked the front with her fist, just blocking the fingers of her left hand that followed behind. This is the most famous yin-cut finger of Ki women. Once it hits a person's body part, it will cause blood vessels to burst and cause internal bleeding without any damage to the surface skin. It is very vicious. The fingernails of Shia's left hand were slightly purple, showing a strange luster. Hidden beneath the glove, like a poisonous snake in the shadows, its viciousness hides. The 2 collided in an instant. Click. The black sword shadow clicked between the spikes of the glove with a clang, was pinched by the spikes, and broke immediately. Shia's left vaginal finger pointed at Scylla's lower abdomen, but was also deflected by a hand knife from top to bottom, and hit the empty space. The 2 of them took a few steps back, fear flashing across their faces. No wonder people who dare to do this come to ask for cards. Okay. Shia's face turned pale and blue. Although he had a small advantage, Scylla's strength was indeed only slightly weaker than him, and he was stuck as a fighter. The level in front of the threshold, not to mention there are two other masters of the same level, and Andrila standing behind him. He was originally planning to quickly get rid of these people and directly recruit Andrila, but he didn't expect. As expected of the fourth ring of the star ring. "Give it to me." He raised his hand suddenly, and hundreds of people in black suddenly rushed up around him. "Call." Garen let out a long breath. Since returning to Huaishan, he has been thinking about what his perfect martial arts system should be. He has always taken the power defense route, but this route lacks speed. Once he encounters someone who is too fast than him, he will only be beaten. Although such a master has not yet appeared, it does not mean that there will not be in the future. A perfect martial arts system should be able to deal with any situation with restraint. Excessive shortcomings will only be fatal flaws. And that time when he faced Xianflan's hallucinatory power, he also had no way to deal with it. This is his weakness, and it needs to be made up for. Speed Garen was sitting cross-legged in the dojo. The early morning sunlight shone lightly on him, coating his entire naked upper body with a layer of pale gold. He got up early in the morning and began to adjust his condition. The Star Ring sect had arrived and a battle could break out at any time. This was a matter of victory in plain sight. Once he lost, it would mean that the Bayun sect behind him had lost. As the current representative figure, his fall means the fall of Bayun section. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 103. For a martial arts sect, reputation is a very important part. Losing means that your skills are inferior to others. Everyone who studies martial arts wants to learn stronger martial arts, so naturally they will not choose weak ones. In this way, the reputation of losing will spread. Bayanman completely collapsed. Therefore, generally speaking, for various sects, no matter how big or small, strong or weak, they generally don't really want to distinguish themselves from the entire section. If they really encounter this situation, they are really here to pick a fight. Although everyone knows who is strong and who is weak, doing so is destroying people's jobs and is a mortal enemy. Therefore, Andrila immediately brought people over to find a place after the reverse star was killed. At the same time, she first picked the headquarters of the Lucerne Brotherhood to restore part of the reputation of the Star Ring section and to the outside world. Ni Shixing can only say that he has not practiced martial arts well, to prove that it is not that Xin Huan martial arts is weaker than the opponent, but that the practitioner is too poor to hold up the wall. Garen was well aware of the consequences of this battle, but the other party must have grasped the location of his relative's master, which was an invisible threat. Killing one of Manlatan's undercover agents was nothing. Even the entire Manlatan company was just their tool and could not solve the dilemma. This is the momentum created by the Star Ring Gate, forcing people to wait where they are and accept the battle. Any sect that has survived to this day has been through many challenges. This is probably how most of the rare secret martial arts secret books collected in the sect were obtained. The sects that were provoked could not survive in the local area, so they had to travel far away and leave. Local survival. Garen recalled some things that his master Fei Bayun once mentioned when he was instructing him in martial arts. Among them, the reason why the founder of the Bayun sect came across the ocean to the Federation was that he was challenged by local masters to worship the sect and was completely defeated. After the death, he had to go far away and start from scratch in a place no one knew about. After all, once the reputation spreads, the martial arts gym can no longer be opened. If you want to destroy the Bayun sect, it depends on whether I allow it or not. Garen closed his eyes and began to think about how to restrain his speed opponent. When the speed reaches a qualitative change, my speed cannot keep up at all, so I can only cope with the changes by staying the same. As long as I know the opponent's offensive goal clearly, no matter how he changes, I only need to hold on to myself. This is defense. It's easy. But it's troublesome to attack the opponent. It's too fast and I can't keep up, and now there are no attribute points to increase the speed. Garen began to try to imagine a high-speed opponent attacking him from all angles, and then came up with countermeasures. At the same time, how do you attack the opponent? Between 2 points, a straight line is the shortest. And that aspect. Maybe I can consider methods from these two aspects. He moved his body slightly and fell into thought again. I don't know how long it took, but he got up and walked out, walked to the yard, stood in front of a rockery pool, and stood quietly. July group. Andrila stood calmly on the grey-white round ring, the rapier in her hand making a trembling ring like a silver bell. The tip of the sword trembled rapidly, vibrating and making a sound, like the sound of a wind chime blown by the night wind. He quietly looked at the old man opposite who was being supported by a group of people and treating his wounds. "Key women, let the real masters come out. I don't have the patience to waste time with you. You, poof." The old man pointed at Andrila and spat out a mouthful of blood, shaking with rage. Shia was supported by 2 disciples in black, her face was covered in blood, her right arm was hanging limply on her shoulder, and she stared at Andrila hatefully. Next to him was Lanpace, whose face was as white as a piece of paper, and a group of middle-aged men and women in red clothes. The people in red all had pale faces, and some of them were holding daggers in their hands that were trembling slightly. They were the Red Obsidian sect who had just arrived. When they heard Andrila coming to challenge them, they hurried over, only to see the great elder of the July sect being stabbed by Andrila's sword. Everyone just heard a clear ring, and then the bell flashed. The great elder groaned and a blood arrow shot out from his right chest, and he fell to the ground. They couldn't even see clearly how Andrila sheathed her sword. "Our strongest master is the great elder Sinan of the ancient capital. Andrila, you are very strong. Far beyond our imagination. But if you want to humiliate us for such a despicable reason, our July sect is willing to fight with no matter how hard you try, it won't make things easier for you." Shia, the strongest person in July of the younger generation, roared with hatred. Humiliation, Andrila slashed her sword, and the ringtone stopped abruptly. "The road to seeking enlightenment is so difficult, do you think I would spend time specifically to humiliate trash characters like you?" His face was as usual, and his eyes were shining with a soft luster, but at this moment, such gentleness gave people an icy chill. "The July gate really disappoints me." He jumped down from the ring, and the 3 Scylla people behind him stepped forward to follow. "Forget it, I have wasted so much time, let's go directly to the round dance gate." Puff. The great elder spat out a mouthful of blood again. He originally wanted to say something, but was blocked by the reverse blood. He was so angry that he could no longer hold back and passed out. The second elder and others looked livid on the side. Some of them were held down by their fellow apprentices and did not dare to let go, for fear that they would die if they let go. Andrila and her group of 4 walked out of the July building. Outside, Elder Seen Huan and his people were waiting for them. "Solved." "Solved," Andrila smiled. "It's not on the same level at all. Senior brother can solve it with a few strikes. No matter how much more garbage there is, it will be useless." The tall girl next to Scylla said disdainfully. "Iona, weren't you injured just now?" "If it hadn't been for the big brother's intervention," hey, another short boy laughed mockingly. "I managed to hold on for at least 2, what about you?" The little dwarf is indeed a dwarf, and he was knocked off the field in just 1. "Let's go to the round dance gate." Andrila said no more, turned around and got into the car. Now that his prestige was growing, he silenced the 2 of them with just 1 sentence and got into the black car. When the cars at the Star Ring sect gradually moved away, people from other sects watching the excitement gradually gathered around and started talking. A large number of people also poured out of the exit of the July building at this time. Shia, Lampace, and others carried the Great Elder and others who had woken up, as well as the owner of the Red Obsidian Gate. Let's go. Go to the round dance gate. Shia looked at the fleet of black cars in the distance with hatred. The Kyo sect is different from other sects in that they have a very deep group foundation. It will not be a complete defeat if the reputation of the sect is defeated. A group of people drove a silver motorcade and got on board. Ramp sat with his father, the second elder. Lampace, you are a member of the exchange meeting this time. What do you think of that Garen from the Bayun sect? The second elder is a middle-aged man with a steady face, short black hair, and grey hair on his temples, looking worried. Senior brother Garen, he is a very powerful person. Rampace honestly answered his impression. He has a very strong physique. He follows a strength-based approach. Strength type. A trace of regret flashed in the eyes of the second elder. It's a pity that when you came to find me, I didn't pay attention to it. However, our Kyo sect is not a pure martial arts section. This failure will cause some losses at most, but the impact is not big. We do not rely on martial arts to support the entire group. Forget it, since we have offended, although it was our mistake, the matter ends here. But, Rampace wanted to say something else, but was stopped by his father. It is impossible for our July group to apologize for a person who lowers his stature for pure martial arts training. You don't understand the Great Elder. If I were to make the decision, I would be very willing to do so. But now it is the Great Elder who makes the decision. Even if he knows that he is wrong, and will not admit his mistakes, the second elder sighed, he is just such a person, even if he dies, he will not admit that he is wrong. Rampace had nothing to say, he just felt like he was holding back a breath that he couldn't vent. The convoy of the July group was followed by the carriage convoys of other sects at this time. Everyone knew that the final decisive battle between the Star Ring Gate and the Southern 12 Gates fell at the Round Dance Gate. For this decisive battle, it happened to be an opportunity to see Androla's strength openly, and the people of the Star Ring sect had no intention of blocking it. This happened to be their opportunity to promote the strength of the Star Ring sect. Androla defeated the July Gate easily, scaring the Obsidian Gate so much that it didn't even dare to make a move. The foundation for Star Ring sect to lay the foundation for the general trend has basically been completed. Finally, he settled his grudge with Bayanman Jialong. The mighty motorcade formed a long queue, stopping in the open space around the Round Dance Gate and on the street. Most of the people in Dina City thought that some leader was coming to inspect, and they followed around for a large circle of people watching the fun. The city police station also sent a large number of police officers to guard the area, and set up a cordon to deny entry except for warriors. Others entered the 500-meter radius around the Round Dance Gate. Only residents within the alert area who were originally at home would have the opportunity to see what was happening inside. The black motorcade of the Star Ring Gate slowly stopped at the entrance of the Round Dance Gate compound. The reddish-brown wooden door was closed. With the slamming sound of the door opening and closing, Androla and others slowly got out of the car. Looking up at the black plaque above the courtyard door, the words Wonwoo Martial Arts School are clearly visible, but the black paint on the edge has peeled off, revealing the brown wood texture underneath. Androla had put on a new black shirt and trousers, with long hair reaching her waist and a smile on her face. If it weren't for the slender silver sword hanging on his waist, he wouldn't look like he was here to challenge, but more like he was here to visit a friend. He gently pressed the eye patch on his left eye. With a creak, the courtyard door opened. Through the open courtyard door, he instantly saw Garen standing in the courtyard, with his back facing him. Garen closed his eyes tightly and adjusted his muscles slightly. He's in a strange, delicate state, and he's in the best shape he's ever been. Star Ring Gate Androla, he asked in a low voice. 12 galleons in the south, Androla also whispered. Without any hesitation, he instantly drew his sword and turned into a black shadow and rushed towards Garen. Garen turned around, opened his eyes, and his figure quickly expanded. The two approached quickly. Suddenly there was a sound like wind chimes and the roar of a giant elephant in the air. At the same time, both of them had a smile on their faces. That's the expectation. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 104. A large number of people gathered around the round dance gate courtyard, and some martial artists even jumped on the wall to get a good position to watch the battle. Others are occupied by residential buildings on some of the surrounding high floors. The Star Ring Gate and others stood in front of the courtyard gate, followed by the July Gate and the Red Obsidian Gate. Several girls from the round dance gate stood at the door of the wooden dojo. Everyone's eyes were nervously staring at the two people in the field. Androla's figure drew a black line and headed straight towards Galen. Stab with a sword. Ding ding ding. A series of metallic clashing sounds suddenly spread. The rapier instantly exploded countless sparks on Garen's body. Call. Androla flipped over and jumped away, narrowly avoiding Garen's sword strike. The green and black arm, as thick as a cement pillar, hit the dirt on the ground. Bang! The fine gray soil suddenly exploded like a bomb. Under the influence of huge force, countless pieces of dust turned into countless darts and hit Androla fiercely. There was another tiny tinkling sound, and a large amount of dirt and debris was actually blocked in front of Androla. There seemed to be a silver mirror in the air in front of him. Block all fine residue. Laugh. The silver mirror disappeared and turned into a thin sword pointed at the ground. After the two exchanged blows, they returned to a state of being several meters apart. Garen looked down at the place where he had just been stabbed. The skin in those places had a faint red spot, which was obviously slightly broken capillaries. It's good that you can actually hurt me. You are indeed the opponent I was looking forward to. A deeper smile spread involuntarily at the corner of his mouth. A surge of emotion surged in his chest, threatening to burst out at any time, like boiling lava. Androla held the sword as if she had never moved her hand, and still stood there with her long hair reaching her waist. You are worthy of being the person who killed my brother if he could withstand my full-strength sword strike in my normal state, he whispered slowly, but his voice did not weaken at all and was clearly heard by everyone. "Ni she seeing is your brother." Garen was shocked, but immediately relieved. No wonder it was you who took action personally. It turns out there is another reason. I have no regrets about killing Ni Shixing. Deaths and injuries in combat are inevitable. If you want revenge, I will stand here. If you can, kill me yourself. Androla's eyes flashed. Life and death are inevitable on the road to seeking Tao. Unfortunately, if we weren't on opposite sides, we might have become very good friends. Although now, I don't want to kill you. He raised his rapier, and a blue-black cross-star muscle suddenly protruded on the back of his hand, which was exactly the same as the reverse 10-star. Eldest brother is using the secret weapon so early, Scylla said in surprise at the Star Ring Gate. You shouldn't need this to deal with a galleon, right? Even if other parts of the body cannot be pierced, the ears and eyes should be able to pierce. Will you wear it? Don't you understand yet? The elder on one side said solemnly. Look carefully at Garen's posture. The three Scylla people immediately looked over attentively. Garen's whole body was seen making a weird figure-8 gesture, and at the same time his arms were constantly moving slowly and fine-tuning, and the whole person was integrated. Moreover, streams of white air came out of his nostrils, lingering hazily around him and flowing slowly. Looking from a distance, it seems as if the whole person is enveloped in the body of a huge white elephant. Every fine-tuning movement brings with it the faint roar of a giant elephant. The expressions of the three people suddenly changed slightly. What a strong spirit! The elder nodded, his expression gloomy. His secret martial arts are integrated into one body, and his whole body's energy and blood are extremely sensitive. No matter where he attacks, he will be easily blocked by his great fighting skills. After all, no matter how fast you are, can you still move faster than he can move his head by just a little bit? He looked at the fierce and strong Garen from a distance. It seems that everyone has underestimated this boy from Bayun sect. Gamulili and Imulili on the other side of the round dance door also looked solemn when they saw this scene. These two people are so brave. Gamulili couldn't hold back the shock on her face. As expected, Garen is indeed an ultimate warrior who has become a fighter. Mom, what is courage? Senior brother Garen looks very powerful, but Andrila doesn't look bad either. Will senior brother Garen be okay? Imlali asked nervously in a low voice. The other disciples also looked at the master with confusion. Aura is an aura that a martial artist's body, martial arts, and spirit are integrated into one. In other words, it is a sense of threat. A sense of danger. You should know that any creature has the ability to respond to crises. It is an instinctive reaction. And the top martial artists have a way to combine everything in themselves to give people a strong sense of threat. This method is courage. When you see a poisonous snake, will you feel danger? Extremely poisonous. Then I feel nervous all over. This is a similar principle. Gamulili looked at the two people in the field with somewhat complicated eyes. And a skilled martial artist has such an ability. Just by showing off his own strength, he can even achieve the exaggerated effect of subduing others without fighting, so that the opponent can't even think of resisting. In order to achieve the goal of winning without fighting, take a closer look at that Andrila. Imlali and the others immediately looked at Andrila carefully, and sure enough, they faintly noticed that his black hair was flying all over his body, and the sound of wind chimes slowly echoed around him. At the same time, he raised his arms flat in a weird hand gesture, giving people a strange feeling. A very weird feeling. It seems a bit like a black cross, Imlali blurted out. There were two people in the yard, a giant white elephant and a black cross, corresponding to each other. A huge sense of terror and danger spread unbridled. Some warriors who were close to each other had the illusion for a while, as if the two of them were so far away that they might attack them at any time. It seemed like a threat, so he couldn't help but retreat continuously, and only slowly relaxed as he got further away. The people at the July gate at the back were looking at the two people confronting each other in an extremely complicated manner. The second elder led the team and stood at the front, with Shia and Rampace beside him. This is courage, his voice was dry, the courage that only top martial artists can have. Not just him, but the other senior executives of the July Gate all had complicated expressions. They were all the senior executives whom Rampace went to beg for mercy at that time. Now that they saw Garen's terrifying and huge aura, they were speechless and speechless. With the inexplicable feeling of being right. As expected of senior brother Garen. No wonder news came from the exchange meeting that he is the strongest person in our 12 southern sects. With him, our south 12 gates will never decline. Senior brother Jialong, a disciple shouted. It would be great if I could be as strong as senior brother Garen. Most of the disciples of the Kyo sect were unaware of this and were still very excited at this time, and they all looked proud of Galen. Elder, why didn't senior brother Garen rest at our July gate when he came to Dina City? Why don't you invite him to teach us martial arts after the competition is over? Yes, Elder, it is not easy for our South 12 sect to have a master who can be compared with the number one person in the Star Ring section. We must definitely invite him to our July group as a guest. The emotions of the major disciples who had been humiliated by Andrila suddenly burst out. Now that they saw Garen being able to confront Andrila, who even the elders had been defeated, they were as excited as if they had been given blood. It was their senior brother who was fighting fiercely with Andrila. The second elder and several senior officials looked at the excited disciples and were speechless for a moment, unable to express their pain. Can they tell the disciples directly that your senior brother Jialong came to the July group, but we didn't pay attention at all and kicked him out as a beggar? When these words are said, not only their image will collapse instantly, but also the image of the entire July Gate will have a mostly negative impact. Rampace looked at the excited expressions of the junior brothers and sisters around him with excitement, and even the strongest junior brother Shia was gritting his teeth and staring at Andrilla while encouraging Garen. For a moment, he felt an indescribable excitement in his heart, and this excitement made his eyes slightly moist. "Shut up." Suddenly there was a loud roar. The entire Key women fell silent instantly, and everyone's eyes fell on the Great Elder on the stretcher behind. The Great Elder changed into white and clean clothes. At this time, his face was red with anger and his beard was trembling. Scream! Suddenly, a terrifying and huge roar rang out in the Yuan Women courtyard. It was like a giant elephant roaring to the sky. The Great Elder was shocked by the voice. He originally wanted to speak, but a breath stuck in his throat before he could spit it out. He rolled his eyes and fainted. All the surrounding martial artists' eyes were focused on the two people in the yard. The roar of the giant elephant exploded wildly without pause. It was the violent noise caused by Garen's arms cutting through the air. Garen stood motionless, a black airflow crazily lingering around his white, strong upper body. That was the blurry visual effect caused by Andrilla's speed. Andrilla's shadow loomed in the black airflow from time to time, and the silver light flashed from time to time, sparks exploding on Garen's body. The two were silent and moving, frantically entangled with each other. Each of Andrilla's swords could clearly pierce Garen's body, but at most it would only leave a little white mark. Sometimes it was stabbed towards the eyes and ears, but was easily avoided or blocked. At this time, Garen's body had slowly expanded. Although it had not reached full strength, it had reached the point where the boulder skill exploded. The height has also changed from more than 1.7 meters to nearly 1.9 meters. The whole person has a strong back and waist, and with a random movement, it can induce airflow to interfere with the opponent, and at the same time, it can also make a noise similar to the roar of a giant elephant. But he couldn't keep up with the opponent's speed at all. He only covered the vital parts tightly, and the other parts were connected by the effect of hardened skin and stable chi and blood. Barely maintaining an undefeated situation. There is a faint sound of wind chimes among the elephants chirping. This stalemate didn't last long. The black thread Andrilla had transformed instantly jumped away, landed on the rockery in the yard and squatted down. Her long black hair slowly fell on the grey-white rocks, like a cloak made of satin. The silver thin sword swung across his side. His eyes became calmer and more intense, appearing extremely contradictory. It seems that ordinary swordsmanship has little effect on your physical defense. Be careful, the next sword is one of the 3 secret swords I hold. I hope you will not die by this sword. Garen moved his arms, and a subtle roar of airflow filled the area around his body again. 3 great secret swords. He is indeed the number 1 among the young generation in the south. He is much stronger than ordinary trash. The corners of Andrilla's mouth curved slightly again. The long sword swayed slowly, drawing a silver fan shape seemingly slowly but quickly. Star Ring Secret Martial Arts. He jumped up lightly and rushed towards Garen. Minjio. Clang. A silver moonlight instantly lit up between Garen and him. The silver moonlight was so bright and dazzling, as if it absorbed all the surrounding light and gathered it together to explode instantly. All the martial artists who were watching were silent, and they didn't even dare to breathe heavily, for fear of destroying the beautiful silver-white bright crescent moon in the yard. 2 crescent moons instantly lit up in Garen's eyes, and the silver light was so dazzling that he could not see at all. Instinctively, he raised his arms in front of his head. An extremely sharp icy breath hit the outside of his arms. In an instant, Garen felt a sharp pain in his arm. Without any thought, his throat exploded. Roar. A violent roar suddenly shook the place. The yard is shaking, the ground is shaking. All the warriors were shaking, and even the dojo house began to rattle, with a large amount of fine dust falling. Mysterious journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 105. Everyone, including the Star Ring sect members not far away, the Red Obsidian sect, and the surrounding warriors, all felt their ears roaring, and their whole bodies were slightly numb from the shock, making them unable to exert their strength. The pond's pool was filled with violent ripples, and several red goldfish jumped out of the water. Bang! The two people in the middle of the yard separated instantly. A black shadow flew out and hit the wall of the courtyard hard. However, his light body turned around, he took a few steps upward to relieve his strength, and landed on the top of the wall to stand firm. The black shadow gradually became clear, and it was Andrula. His right arm holding the sword was trembling slightly, and a trace of red blood flowed from the sleeve along the arm, dripping silently at his feet. He is worthy of being the strongest of the 12 southern sects. His voice was low, but there was a hint of excitement. You're good too. Garen relaxed his arms. There were two slender cuts on the outside of his arms, like two red lines, slowly oozing blood. Secret sword Minjio. It's very good. He licked the blood on his arm, and a trace of ferocity appeared on his face. You can actually hurt me, but that's not enough. Indeed, Andrula smiled, you are qualified to let me use the second form of the secret sword. The people around were still immersed in shock and fright. The battle between the two people had gone beyond the limits of ordinary martial artists and reached a level that humans could not imagine. They relied on their bodies to resist such high-speed terrifying swordsmanship, and almost the powerful speed of the figure cannot be clearly seen. All of these are brand new scenes that all warriors have never seen before. Now, listening to the tone of the two people, it seems that the fight just now was not a real full-strength fight, and many martial artists who thought they were strong were suddenly confused. These two are so strong. In the July Gate, Shia looked at the two figures in the field, the heat in her eyes could almost melt steel. I thought I was strong enough, but I didn't expect martial arts to be able to reach such a level. This is what a fighter is. The second elder whispered from the side. Xia, Rampace, you two are the most promising disciples of my July sect to reach this point. Watch carefully, their battle will give you guidance and direction for your future path. Yard. Andrula shook the sword slowly. Buzz. The rapier vibrated violently in an instant, and countless silver dots flashed from the tip of the sword, beating in the air. In an instant, he lightly jumped off the high wall, and rushed towards Galen very quickly. This speed was obviously slower than before, but it was still much faster than Galen. There were a large number of fine silver dots surrounding him. As he sprinted forward, these silver dots quickly reduced and condensed, leaving only 3 Z-shaped silver dots on the tip of the sword. 3 stars. The 3 points of the rapier instantly merged into one, and silver light flashed. Andrula stopped 2 meters away from Garen. Strangely, the silver light from the rapier actually crossed the 2-meter range and lit up directly on Garen. It was a very thin spot of light that flickered in the middle of Garen's chest. Garen slowly reached out and touched his chest. A bit of red on the chest suddenly spread, gradually spreading to the surrounding areas. It was rich blood. He gently pressed the wound and felt a stinging pain in his chest, which was the severe pain caused by the torn skin and muscles. What a powerful sword! Garen was amazed. At the last moment, I was completely unable to react, and it exploded at an unimaginable speed. It's a pity. It's still a little short. He took a deep breath. A terrifying huge heat spread from his body. His body is getting bigger. Height is increasing. From the original height of 1.9 meters, it quickly expanded to 2.23 meters. It's a long way ahead of Andrula. The muscles and skin on his body began to quickly turn black and blue, like an ordinary strong man suddenly expanding into a huge giant. The arms are as thick as an average person's thigh. The ferocious green veins twisted and coiled around the body, like poisonous green snakes. Everyone's expressions changed. The onlookers were warriors, several women at the round dance gate, the red obsidian gate, the star ring gate, and the July gate further away. Everyone's eyes were focused on Garen, who had changed drastically in an instant, that terrifying blue-black giant. This is the ultimate limit of the legendary Hard Kagong, a trembling voice came from the onlookers in the crowd. Only a few well-informed warriors can recognize the source of such changes. It is rumored that Hard Kagong will undergo great changes when you practice it to the highest level. 12 galleons in the south. This battle will be his battle to become famous. The warriors who were watching suddenly became excited. The expressions on the faces of the Third Ring, the Elders, and others of the Star Ring sect became extremely ugly. The July Gate, which they thought was a tough one, was surprisingly easily dealt with, while the Galleon, which they thought was an ordinary thing, turned out to be a huge iron plate. The limit of Hard Kagong. Now we're in trouble, the Elder murmured, looking at Andrilla in the yard. Lila, how do you deal with the legendary and terrifying Hard Kagong? Elder brother will not lose, the tall woman, one of the three rings, said firmly. Brother, come on, Scylla shouted suddenly. July Gate. The second elder stared at the yard with a look of surprise and joy. The limit of Hard Kagong is beyond my imagination. Now let's see how Andrilla deals with it. Senior brother Garen is invincible. Feeling the shock of the surrounding brothers and elders, Rampace felt completely elated. At the entrance of the Yuan Wumen dojo, several girls had just recovered from the numbness of the loud sound when they saw Garen's terrifying changes. Kill him. Senior brother Garen is the strongest. Imlalai shouted excitedly. Now, what are you going to do? Andrilla, there was a hint of expectation on Gamulai's cold face. His eyes were fixed on Andrilla, who was standing with a sword. Not only him, but at this moment, all the warriors watching the battle were staring closely at Andrilla, watching how he should respond. Andrilla in black stood in front of the huge Galleon, who was a head taller than her, just like a child standing in front of an adult, looking so weak and slender. Even the thin sword he held, which was nearly 1.5 meters tall, was more like a toothpick compared to Galen's size, and looked extremely weak. Bang! Garen's palms collided, making a dull impact. He looked at Andrilla in front of him with the same expectant expression. This is my true strongest state, Andrilla, come and kill me, for your brother, for the reputation of your Star Ring sect, and for the ultimate martial arts you have been pursuing from the beginning to the end. Andrilla's face was also full of shock, but unlike others, there was no fear on his face, not even a trace of fear. There is only complete amazement and admiration. Starting from today on the legendary Hard Kagong Extreme Galleon, your name will be completely resounding throughout the southern martial arts world. You're right. Although it's a pity, one of us is destined to fall, whether it's you or me. The surprise on his face gradually calmed down. Originally, I thought I couldn't find an opponent worthy of my full strength. I didn't expect to meet you here. He slowly raised his rapier. Let me show you the strongest swordsmanship I have created so far. Secret sword. Flash. Laugh. There was a soft sound, and Garen felt a pain in his vest. Andrilla in front of her disappeared instantly. He turned around suddenly and saw Andrilla, who had been in front of him just now, actually standing firmly behind him, slowly retracting the rapier, with blood faintly shaken off from the tip of the sword. Such a speed! Garen's pupils shrank. It's a high speed that can't even be captured visually. It won't be easy even for you. He felt pain in his vest, but it wasn't very strong and the injury was obviously not serious. Unfortunately, if you meet anyone else, this move of yours will be the decisive kill. It's a pity that I met you. Andrilla had a helpless smile on her face. Garen nodded and said, when I burst out with all my strength, any attack my body encounters will automatically produce a strong counter shock. You are already a high load speed secret sword, and you will be even more burdened when you encounter a counter shock. Your hands are now slightly. Is the bone cracked? The bitter smile on Androla's face disappeared. It's enough to use a sword. Even the high-speed impact coupled with your own strength cannot seriously injure me. You still want to try? Garen looked at Androla in front of him quietly. Moreover, I cannot hold back in this state. Any shot I make will have a strong concussive effect. This is the essence of my giant elephant secret martial arts. Garen slowly shook his head. Stop it, I don't want to kill you. It doesn't matter. Being able to use my life to commemorate the ultimate in martial arts is my greatest pursuit in life. Androla raised her sword high again. There was an inexplicable solemnity and enthusiasm in his eyes. It was the first time that Garen met someone so devoted to martial arts. There was silence for a moment. Okay, I respect your choice. He closed his eyes, and his whole body began to tremble slowly, giving people the illusion that it could move left, right, up and down at any time. This is to prevent Androla from attacking his vulnerable parts, such as his ears and eyes. This is also his most important defensive aspect. Secret sword. Flash. Androla's voice disappeared instantly. Garen's muscles all over his body shrank suddenly, becoming more compact and dense, and at the same time he raised his arms flat. Serial swing. His body turned, his hands rotated into a wheel shape, and the hand knife struck in all directions. Laugh. The rapier flickered at the eyes and ears first, but failed to find an opportunity. At the last moment, it pointed at Garen's right armpit, trying to pierce it. At this moment, Galen struck Androla with a spinning knife on his left shoulder, sending him flying like a sack instantly. Bang! Star Ring Sect, defeated. For a moment, this idea echoed in everyone's hearts at the same time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 106. Bang. Androla's body hit the half-open door hard, smashing the wooden door with a click and sliding far away from the ground. She didn't stop until she almost hit the onlookers' warriors. He tried to hold himself up with one hand, but fell down again. On the side of his head, he spat out a mouthful of blood with a loud sound. Garen stood quietly, his scarlet eyes seemed to be flashing with red fluorescence. He quietly looked at Androla lying on the ground in the distance. He had stopped as much as possible, but unfortunately, in his full state, his own strength was too violent. Even if he just hit the shoulder, it would give people a powerful enough violent shock. This is the essence of Juxiang Mai Wu. Burst. He looked around, the whole place was quiet, and all the warriors who caught his gaze unconsciously looked away. From the warriors on the wall, to the round dance gate, to the red obsidian gate, and finally to the Star Ring gate and the others. The members of the Star Ring sect were now in a state of deathly silence. Their expressions were dull and helpless, as if they had not yet realized the failure of their senior brother. Only Scylla and two other disciples rushed over to help Androla, who fell to the ground. The leader of the elders stared at Garen without hesitation. There was no hatred or anger in his eyes, just a touch of loss. Do you know the real purpose of our trip? Bianman Jialong, he suddenly said loudly. The sound seemed a bit abrupt in this quiet moment. We are here this time. Master. Androla's voice suddenly interrupted him. With the help of his brothers, he straightened up and used his rapier on the ground to maintain balance. Although his face was pale, except for the injury on his shoulder, it didn't look serious. But everyone knew that he was just holding on, and being hit by Garen, who had transformed into such a terrifying figure, probably no one could bear it. Winning is victory, defeat is defeat. There is nothing to say. Androla covered her shoulder with one hand and was touching the area around the injury with fine and quick fingering techniques, which seemed to be some kind of secret healing weapon. It can be seen that as his fingering continues, the pain in the shoulder injury seems to be gradually decreasing. He gradually became more relaxed when speaking. I didn't expect you to be merciful. Garen, he looked at Garen in the yard calmly. My brother's death will be wiped out from now on. I owe you a life. If you kill Nishi Singh, we are even. Then he slowly turned around, with his back to Garen, and looked at everyone behind. It's time to get to the real purpose of our trip. Among the dense crowd, key women and others were mixed in. Only then did the second elders, including Ramps and others, realize that the direction Andrila was facing was actually them. Young man, you are very brave. A thin and short figure slowly walked out from the doorman at the July gate. The strange thing was that no one noticed him standing in the crowd before he walked out. This is a thin old man, wearing a dark green robe and a bamboo hat to cover his face. His height was only as high as the chests of those around him. But it gives people a violent and dangerous atmosphere. As soon as he walked out, the people around him suddenly retreated and crowded, as if they were encountering poisonous snakes and beasts. Some of the weak-minded people even looked frightened and screamed in panic with their mouths open. Just as the old man came out, the great elder of the key women was also not far behind him. His injuries seemed to be relieving and his face looked better. Since you are formally challenging according to the rules of the martial arts world, then I will also follow the rules of the martial arts world. Huh. You have injured so many people in my July gate, and you still want to leave Dina City easily. His face showed deep sarcasm. Whether it's the secret martial arts world or your star ring sex influence in the military. This is Grant Province, not your hometown. Do you think you can be as arrogant as during the exchange meeting? Everyone was confused and didn't know where he found an old man. The people around the Kyo gate were also confused, but looking at the appearance of the great elder, it was obvious that this old man should also be the secret power of the Kyo gate. And judging from this man's courage, he is obviously an older generation fighter. But everyone also knows what Elder Kyo means. He is bringing people here to cause trouble. Moreover, they wait until both Garan and Andrila are injured before they come out to take advantage. Teacher Zholong, these people from the Star Ring sect are all in your hands, the great elder said softly to the old man. General Bird, you're welcome. The little old man actually responded to the elder in an unusually polite manner. You helped me a lot last time. This little thing is nothing to mention. As a fighter, I also want to see what masters the younger generation has. His eyes moved to Andrila, who was barely standing. Boy, considering that you just had a fight with someone and your strength is low, I reluctantly made the move first. Let me tell you in advance that this move is a simple move I created by observing the sky. I only use Yi Cheng Li. If I can't even follow this move, then I will take away the title of the #1 young master in the south today. As soon as he finished speaking, without waiting for Andrila to respond, the little old man Zulong took a deep breath, took out a red pill from his arms and threw it into his mouth, chewed it and swallowed it, and at the same time, the violent energy in his body became stronger. Everyone faintly heard the hissing sound like a poisonous snake. His legs were slightly bent, his face turned white and red for a while, and his palms actually swelled a bit, becoming as red as blood. You can still smell a faint fishy smell. Red python fist. Venomous bite. He walked towards Andrila neither quickly nor slowly, and with every step he took, the fishy smell on his hands became more obvious and stronger. At the same time, his face became more and more rosy, which was obviously a manifestation of the extreme flow of chi and blood. Shameless. This is the same thought in everyone's mind at this time. It's okay to take advantage of Andrila's serious injury to strike. He still needs to find a reason to strike first, and he also needs to increase the power of his punches. He still keeps saying that this is a simple trick and only uses 10% of the force. And, youth, that is youth. Are you still called a young man like this? When you go back and look in the mirror, you are more than 50, right? Oh no. Is this a humming simple trick? Only if you have your humming head banged against iron will you believe that this is a simple trick. A rough warrior couldn't help but cursed loudly. Can you be more shameless? Uchungli. A blushing face and a thick neck are also called Uchungli. Go ahead and lie to me. I'll wipe it out. There is such a weird thing in July Gate. I know that pill. It's the bloodfall pill, an advanced secret medicine that increases the power and speed of boxing within an hour. Shameless. He is simply the scum of the martial arts world. The warriors around him couldn't stand it anymore and started to curse. Even the people from Key Women quickly lowered their heads and got out of the way, their faces burning. Lan Pace and the second elder were both traditional martial artists. Seeing how shameless the old man hired by the elder was, they felt that their faces were dishonored, and the Key Women's reputation was about to be lost. The old man Chuo Long was actually unmoved and continued to walk towards Andrila in an obscene manner. Among the people at the Star Ring Gate, San Huan slowly walked up and stood in front of Andrila. He looked at old man Long with an expressionless expression. Get out of the way, you can't stop him. Andrila has already seen the opponent's level of strength, which is also at the level of a fighter, and not low. This person is also one of the real trump cards of the July Gate, and one of his targets this time, but he didn't expect to be injured to this extent in the battle with Garen. It's okay. Senior brother, please take a rest first, Scylla whispered. Just leave this person to us. He was always the leader among the group, and he was the first to answer at this time. On the field at this time. Does the Key Women only know this kind of despicable and shameless tricks? Elder Xin Huan said sarcastically. It's better than your Star Ring sect drugging people. Old man Long laughed twice and said no more. Dose medicine. Elder Xin Huan was shocked, before he could react. Old man Long suddenly accelerated, took a few steps and rushed towards Andrila. Bang bang bang. With 3 consecutive blasts, the 3 rings of the Star Ring door were smashed open and rolled out on both sides. Their faces turned red, a sickly purple color. Apparently he was poisoned. The old man laughed and slapped Andrila on the chest. The hissing of the poisonous snakes around him suddenly increased, bringing with it a fishy wind. Laugh. A dart was shot hard into his neck. In the way. Zwilong's eyes flashed fiercely, and he flicked the dart and shot it back in its path. The short boy in one of the 3 rings groaned, and his left arm was pinned to the ground by a dart. Andrila watched with calm eyes as Xiaolong's scarlet palm struck towards her. He lifted the sword. Although he had no strength, the tip of the sword still pointed out 3 points of silver light with difficulty, and then they gathered together. Click. He heard the sound of bones cracking in his arm, which was a side effect of using the secret sword forcefully. 3 stars. 1 point. He extended the sword and stabbed it in the front of Zwilong's red palm. With a squeaking sound, the sword bent instantly. You can't even catch any of my moves. Who are you, the best master in the south? It seems that today is the day when my red python fist, Zhoulong, will become famous. Ha 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 ha. Zhoulong finally couldn't suppress his laughter. Suddenly his expression changed, and he felt something flying towards the left front at high speed. The power was so strong that it made a sharp whistling sound. In a hurry, he suddenly moved his red palm in that direction. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Holy shit! What the hell? Zhoulong's body flew out sideways, his scarlet palm blocking a small white stone. The stone rotated at high speed in his palm, and the violent friction gave off the smell of something burning. The huge force pressed against his body and he slid back more than 10 steps before stopping. His feet had clearly left 2 black marks on the ground. Stones. Zhoulong looked shocked and grabbed the stone in his hand. In disbelief, he quickly looked towards the direction in which the stone was flying. In the courtyard, Garen's eyes were lowered, and a trace of green smoke slowly came out of his right hand. It was obvious that he had thrown the stone. You are also a fighter, right? Garen lowered his hand. It just so happens that I didn't have all the fun just now, so come and fight with me. Do you know who I am? Zhou threw away the stone in his hand with a sneer on his face. I am the legendary Red Python Fist Halong who has never been defeated. I was just in a bad state just now. Forget it. For the sake of Lord Aaron, the leader of the Star Ring sect, I will spare you this time. Don't let me meet you next time. I'll meet you next time, don't blame me for being cruel. He sneered twice, jumped up, and disappeared into the crowd. Garen's face twitched a few times, and he wanted to say something, but couldn't. Zhao Long. It turns out it's him. Elder Xing Huan was speechless. His nickname is obviously Dwarf Red Rat. When did it change to Red Python Fist? I just said why he looked so familiar just now. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 107. All the warriors onlookers became excited now. Seeing that Qi Women's trump card was actually a shameless fighter like Chu Long, his view of Qi Women became weird. The disciples and students of the Qio sect wanted to crawl into the ground one by one, their faces were so red that they couldn't even lift their heads. Even the second elder and the ministers and senior officials of several company groups couldn't bear this kind of contempt, and they quickly turned around and left. The great elder's face turned blue and white. He is a retired federal general. He is not an idle member of the army, but a military general with great influence. He has huge power. He usually has contact with Chuo Long and other martial artists. After hearing Chuo Long's self-praise, he thought that the so-called fighters outside were nothing more than that. He also had a fighter around him, and he was the strongest fighter, the undefeated Red Python Fist Chuo Long. Just by hearing the name, he knew he was very powerful. After meeting several martial artists who easily killed his rivals, and even two famous ones, the great elder's initially doubtful confidence became even stronger. There is no longer any doubt about Chu Long's nickname. I didn't expect that today would be my first appearance. He actually ran away from the battle. For a while, contemptuous glances came from all around, and the disdainful comments around him were buzzing like wasps. Puff! The great elder spat out a mouthful of blood again and fell to the sky. Spurt blood again. This old man only knows how to spurt blood. The Star Ring sect elder was speechless. If my martial arts hadn't been broken, I couldn't help but want to slap him twice. Elder, it's really impossible this time, Scylla, who had just stood up, whispered beside him. Sure enough, the disciples of the Qio sect rushed forward in panic. The great elder has passed out of shock. Hurry! Send him to the hospital. Send to the general hospital of the military region immediately. If anyone has quick-acting medicine, please do cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Press your heart. Hurry up. After a while of miscellaneous work, the people from the Qio gate finally carried the temporarily relieved great elder and quickly evacuated. Ramps anxiously accompanied the great elder. Although he had conflicts with the elder because of Garen's matter, the great elder still took good care of him. When he finally left, he looked back at Garen who was standing quietly in the yard. The eyes are complicated. The originally menacing July gate suddenly turned into a farce. The eyes of the field once again fell on Andrilla and Garen. I owe you a life. Andrilla took a deep breath, quickly took the pill from one of the three rings next to her, and swallowed it in one gulp. Don't worry, I promise in my name that my branch of the Star Ring sect will not trouble you from now on. I will also give you an explanation for anything else. You have to be careful, Black Mark will interact with the section. The Lord will not give up. In the end, I will recover from this defeat. Garen said nothing, his body slowly relaxed, and his whole body gradually shrank and returned to its original shape. Watching the Star Ring sect and others slowly leaving with the wounded, he walked to the edge of the pool in the courtyard, where the golden and red goldfish were swimming carefree and slowly. Garmulili and others from the round dance door came over and looked at the messy courtyard. They didn't say anything, just looked at Garin. Call. Garin let out a long breath. Suddenly there was a feeling of infinite relaxation. Most of the surrounding warriors gradually dispersed, and the leader of the Red Obsidian sect gritted his teeth and took his disciples back to his sect. The unified trend of the Star Ring Gate Black Label Society was completely blocked at Galleon. As long as there are galleons in the southern 12 gates, it will not be easy for the Star Ring Gate Black Label Association to unify the overall situation. After this battle, the 12 southern sects are now marked by Gallon. Some of the sect leaders who returned have actually seen the situation clearly, and now there are only two choices. One is to maintain the original existence of the sect and move to the edge of Garan for shelter. The second is that the sect was broken up and merged into the Black Label Society. No one wants to disband themselves and merge into Black Label and let others manage them. After all, they are all martial arts that have been passed down for many years. Many of them have their own spirits and ideas, and they cannot be given up simply by giving some benefits. Now, as long as Gallon does not fall, the 12 southern gates will not completely fail as an obstacle to unification. As time passed around the round dance gate, the onlookers gradually dispersed, and the policemen who maintained public order also got into police cars and left. Traffic has resumed in areas that were originally blocked. The girl at the round dance door closed the broken courtyard door. Garin took out a stack of checkbooks from the room, wrote a number on it and handed it to Garmililai. This is the venue fee for damage caused by this competition, please accept it. Gamlalai is not pretentious, she really needs money now. After checking the check, I looked at the number on it, 1 million. What a generous gesture. Garin smiled and said, this time the Star Ring Gate matter has been temporarily relieved. It's time for me to go back. He has now gradually separated from the category of ordinary high school students, and in his heart, he is far older than the 17-year-old high school student. There was no point in going back to school. And there's still a lot to settle. The Star Ring Gate and the Black Mark Society are only retreating temporarily. In addition, the matter of Immortal Fran has not yet been settled. The people of Immortal Palace are mysterious and abnormal, and there is no trace at all. Garin was certain that Sanfran had no murderous intention towards him, but he seemed to have taken something from him that time. He checked for a long time but didn't find out what was taken. I can only put my doubts in my heart. He didn't know why Xianflan wanted to lure him out. Maybe it was because of the Black Label Society's plan, maybe because of something in him, or maybe it was some other reason. What he could feel was Xianflan's complicated and inexplicable attitude towards him. The support of the 12 South Gates is Sulin's business. In addition to these two aspects, there is also the matter of relying on Detective Tailai to find the ill-fated antiques. Currently, Tailai Mercury and others are still investigating the case in Blue Bay City, Fwa Province. The three aspects of things seem to be independent, but they are all connected in common. That is, there seems to be the shadow of the fairy palace behind them. What Gallon needs to do is to conduct a thorough investigation one by one and investigate clearly. And in the process, he is constantly looking for new antiques of doom to improve his strength. This is his current purpose. Are you going back? Imlalai asked a little disappointed, can't you stay a little longer to guide us? Next time. Haha. Garin was relieved from the fight and replied with a smile. Then when are you leaving? Gamulilai said calmly. I would also like to trouble you to help me sell my clothes. Garin awkwardly pointed at his naked upper body, and the white pants on his lower body were also stained. It's still not good to go out like this. That's true. Although Gamulilai still had an unusually cold attitude, her eyes looking at Garin had become much softer. The battle at Yuanwumen shocked the entire southern martial arts world. The chief of the Star Ring sect, senior brother Andrila, was defeated by Bayun sect Gallon head-on. This represents the suppression of the unification trend in the southern martial arts community. There are currently 7 sects in the southern 12 sections except for the July sect, which has suffered a huge loss in strength due to the decline in popularity. The remaining 5 sects have united with the remaining southern 12 sects to spontaneously form an alliance to resist the rise of the Black Label Society. This organization respects the number 1 master in the south, Whitebird Holy Fist Palasha, as its leader, and is recognized by Palasha. Coupled with the momentum of the South 12 Gate Galen's victory over Star Ring Gate Andrila, the reputation of the two gathered a large number of people with lofty ideals who had long been dissatisfied with the Star Ring Gate Black Label Association and the Red Sand Sword Tripartite. Moreover, this organization also unexpectedly won the non-intervention policy of Star Ring Sect and Red Sand Sword. While external forces remained neutral, the battle with the Black Label Society was extremely fierce. There were endless formal contests between the two sides. But none of them reached the level of a fighter. But the two sides are calling friends, and the scope of the battle is getting bigger and bigger. Conflicts intensified and escalated. After a period of stalemate, the organization officially announced its establishment as a unified force. The correct name is Nantian Holy Fist Section. It means the supreme boxing sect in the south. While the Nantian Holy Fist sect and the Black Label Society were fighting, Garen returned to Huaishan City, handled the formalities for leaving school, applied for a temporary suspension, and began to sort out the affairs of the Bayun section. But the first person to face is the controller of Bayanman Industry, Bhavini. Huaishan City. On a building in the city center area. In a magnificent room. Galen and Bhavini sat opposite each other, with a cup of hot coffee in front of them. The strong aroma of coffee slowly filled the air. Galen didn't say anything. He came this time at the invitation of Bhavini. Sitting on the sofa at this time, he recalled that since traveling through this time, he did not know how many lives he had experienced that were much more exciting than his previous life on Earth. No longer boring, no longer boring, no longer repeating the mechanical boring life, no longer soaked in the boring life, depressed, deteriorated, and finally rotted. His fingers gently caressed the delicate texture of the white porcelain cup. The slightly hot coffee could only feel a little warm temperature through the cup. After coming back to his senses, Garen looked up at the fat bald man opposite. "Mr. Bhavini, what are your preparations for inviting me here this time?" With a relaxed smile on his face, Bhavini took out a document that had been set aside and placed it on the table next to Galen. "Mr. Galen, these are the various properties transferred to your name, with the asset appraisal from the appraisal company attached. Take a look." "Transferred to my name?" Garen was slightly stunned. Of course. Bhavini picked up the coffee and took a slow sip. "You have made such great contributions to Bayun sect through life and death. It's not a big deal to transfer a little bit of property to you personally. Presumably even if Master Fei wakes up and turns around, you won't blame me for this little thing." Garen suddenly understood what Bhavini meant. The property of Bayun Martial Arts School is all under Fei Bayun's name, and it actually means nothing to him. Those are the master's assets, he cannot call them, and he is not even qualified to intervene in management. Now that the Bayun sect has withered away, he is the only one left to make the decision. Bhavini wanted to drag him into the table where Bayanman's industry was divided, and to silence him with actual interests. "Mr. Bhavini, maybe you have wrongly blamed me." Garen laughed dumbly and shook his head slightly. Bhavini's expression remained unchanged and he maintained a faint smile. "It doesn't matter. Let's talk slowly. There will always be common ground to communicate." He calmly took out another stack of documents from the briefcase on one side and placed it in front of Garen. "You take a look first." Galen picked it up and looked at it. Several documents were asset transfer agreements for the casino, factory, and antique trading company under Bayanman. He only needed to sign his name to take effect. Also attached is an asset appraisal report and a check from the Federal Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, with the amount on it being 20 million. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 108. What do you mean? Bribing me? Garin put down the document and said calmly. How can you say it's bribery? Bhavini smiled. It's just a simple case of each taking what he needs. What do you think? Garin also smiled, with a sense of contempt and ignorance. It's a pity. Maybe you think that without Bayun sect, you can be independent and fully control all industries. But I have no interest in getting involved in your affairs. Bhavini's expression changed slightly. What do you mean? I have accepted these things. Garin stood up and picked up the transfer documents. Okay, that's it for this time. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Watching Garin's figure slowly go out and leave, a trace of doubt appeared on Bhavini's face. Agreed? Or, forget it, just accept the things. He felt relieved a little. After walking out of the building, Garin walked directly towards a red carriage parked on the street. Sitting on the carriage was a dark-haired man wearing a grey windbreaker. It's up to you, Jim. Galen got into the car and patted the man on the shoulder. Let Bwini know that he can't do anything without us. As the local manager of Jinhuan, this is my responsibility. Since the Sixth Lord ordered me to completely obey your arrangements before leaving, I will definitely not refuse, the man said calmly. However, now that the school procedures have been completed, what are you going to do next? To tell you the truth, Jinhuan's local influence is not very big. At most, they can mobilize 30 or 40 people. It's definitely not possible to rely entirely on us. What's going on? Wasn't it possible to transfer many people at once in the past? Garin asked doubtfully. It's not because of you, the man said dissatisfied. Our local operations have been suppressed to the limit. I applied to manage Huaishan City, but it seems that it was a mistake from the beginning. No, I have to prepare to apply for transfer to other cities. It's too much trouble to stay here with you. The Manjem is Jinhuan's local ordinary personnel manager, which can also be said to be the intelligence chief, peripheral manager, and other titles. Except for the ranked Golden Ring, the rest of the peripheral personnel of the Golden Ring, that is, the minions, are all dispatched by him. In outside perception, he is considered the leader of 2 local gangs. It doesn't matter, it's enough to achieve the goal. Garin smiled, and the carriage gradually began to move. The coachman was also from Jinhuan and completely ignored what the 2 people behind him were talking about. It's been more than 20 days since I came back from Dina City. If I had waited for Sulin to help me rescue me, I would have died long ago. Is there any movement on the 6th side? My lord will arrive at Huaishan today, if the train is not late, Jem whispered. He stretched out his wrist and glanced at the watch on his hand. The current time is 11 o'clock, and the approximate arrival time is 3 o'clock. In addition, you can't say that. It was only after you heard that you had rescued yourself that you calmed down and didn't make a special trip. Otherwise, you can definitely arrive within 10 days. The delay in coming back this time is just to help you solve the matter more neatly. Then I really thanked him. Garin was speechless. Half an hour later, the carriage drove slowly to a remote restaurant and stopped. The restaurant was deserted with few people eating. The only dining customers were boys and girls in white GI, students from the branch of the reopened Bayun Martial Arts School. Galen got off the carriage and walked into the small restaurant. A girl in a green dress who was idle and bored in the store immediately came to greet her. The girl was slim and quite pretty, giving her a pure and pleasant temperament. The single room is reserved for you. Please come with me. Trouble, Garin often eats here recently. The shop here is very small, with only one shop and a single room. The owner of the business is a middle-aged old man who is not very young. The person responsible for cleaning is the 13-year-old girl in a green dress whom he adopted, and the other is the invited chef. The 2 fathers and daughters barely make ends meet by running a student business at a martial arts branch. Their food doesn't taste very good, it's average, but the emphasis is on cleanliness. Moreover, the girl's pretty and lovely figure is also a sight to behold. Garen was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, and his strong muscles made the clothes extremely tight. Underneath his short purple-black hair are deep red and clear eyes. He gives off an inexplicable power when walking, speaking, and doing, as if the pressure of his body alone can overwhelm an opponent with less willpower. When the girl in green skirt stood in front of Garen for the first time, her legs felt weak and she didn't dare to look up into his calm red eyes. It was a strong confidence that seemed to be able to face any situation calmly. Garen followed the girl into the only private room. Since he entered the store, everyone else in the store immediately became a little depressed and quiet. It wasn't until he completely entered the private room that the volume of conversation resumed. The eyes of several young people curiously followed him into the single room before slowly looking back. Walking into the clean and tidy red-walled private room, sitting on a yellow wooden chair, Garen familiarly named a few dishes. The girl in the green dress hurriedly exited the room and prepared to serve the food. After closing the door, you could vaguely hear the girl taking a deep, relaxed breath. Garen smiled helplessly. Since the battle with Andrila, my aura has become stronger and stronger. Even if I put it all away, it will affect ordinary people unknowingly. It's really troublesome. Others want it, but you still find it troublesome. Sulin's voice came from outside the door. He pushed the door open and walked in. He was wearing an ordinary black t-shirt and jeans, which happened to be similar to Galen's, except that her figure is thin, giving people a gentle feeling. The only drawback is that the dazzling red hair on the head ruins this overall look. I just saw you coming in, so I followed you. Didn't you say you can't arrive until 3 o'clock? Garen asked calmly as he watched Sulin walk to the chair next to the table and sit down. That's just to trick others. If anyone can easily grasp my whereabouts, there will be no safety at all. Sulin smiled and sat down. Have you made plans to settle your parents and sister? They are under the care of my uncle and should not be involved in our world. Galen shook his head. It's better to let them live peacefully like this. Now that Manraton Company has withdrawn from Huaishan, the entire city is already owned by our family. It should be okay to secretly protect the safety of a few people, right? According to the rules, they are indeed not in great danger. Although you have become famous in the martial arts world, no one knows you in other aspects. The possibility of targeting your family is very low. After all, no one dares to break the entire rule. Once someone takes the initiative, the opponent will naturally not have any scruples. With your current strength hidden behind the scenes, even the Star Ring sect will have a headache, right? Sulin said with a smile, but the stronger you are, the more helpful it will be to me. How is the situation now? Specific situation. Garen poured 2 cups of cheap black tea for the two of them, took a sip and asked. The situation is a bit complicated. But it is relatively simple to analyze carefully. Sulin paused, seeming to be sorting out how to answer. The forces that have been completely determined now, excluding you, include 3 aspects. The Star Ring Gate and the Red Sand Sword are one piece, the Black Label is one piece, and then the Nantian Holy Fist Gate is one piece. The Red Sand Sword of the Star Ring sect, and the Black Label Association are not monolithic. Although they are temporarily united, the 3 forces all want a piece of the pie that they jointly broke up in the southern martial arts world, so they are all expanding crazily and picking fights everywhere. The people of the Black Label Society and the people of the Red Sand Sword almost caused a conflict. They all seem to want to take the opportunity to expand their power during the process of integrating the South. The 3 forces all intend to compete with each other. Sulin paused and glanced at Garen, who was listening intently. The Star Ring Gate temporarily retreated because of you, and Andrila played a big role in it. He publicly said that he owed you a life. Everyone knows what he meant. Even if you kill Ni Shixing, but once you are in danger and need help, the power of his Andrila branch will help you at any time. In order to repay you a life. No one doubts the authenticity of his words. It is said that these words were spoken, Andrila, you were slapped in the face by the fiery leader of the Star Ring sect, and you were seriously injured and vomited blood on the spot. However, this cannot avoid his lofty status and influence in the minds of all the disciples. Therefore, in order to avoid internal conflicts, the Star Ring sect will not attack you. But Black Label is different. Where are the other two forces? Garen knew very well what the consequences would be if he saved Andrila. He was a man who took his promises very seriously and never made promises easily. Once he made a promise, he would definitely honor it. So he had expected the attitude of Star Ring sect from the beginning. Black Label Club seems to be dismissive, thinking that Andrila's strength is praised by others, so they don't take it seriously. They don't think much of you who can defeat Andrila. They have launched 3 major boxing champions internally. Master, I guess I will face you sooner or later. Angsha Sword knows Andrila's strength before she was seriously injured, so she has restrained her attitude towards you. The last one, Nan Tian Shengfus sect, was only integrated for more than 10 days. It was referred to as Nan Sheng section because of human ties. 3 people also stood up to fight against the 3 major martial arts champions launched by the Black Label Association. These 3 people were not all masters in the South originally, but because their acquaintances were injured by the Black Label Society, they were involved and officially became the main force in the fight against the Black Label Society. They are called Heavenly Generals by the people of Nanzhenmen, collectively known as 3-Day Generals. 3-Day General? His name is quite domineering, but I don't know how strong he is, Garen murmured. Sorry, you are one of them, Sulin said with a strange smile. Huh, Garen was stunned. Me? Yes, Sulin suppressed his laughter and nodded. You are the 3 most powerful people in the South Saint sect, one of the 3 generals, the giant elephant. It's just named after my womb. I thought it would give me a nice nickname, Garen said, a little disappointed. But to become one of the 3 generals inexplicably is really quite speechless. I didn't even know that the position was assigned to me. There is probably no way around this. It is very difficult for the Nantian Holy Fist sect to find fighters who can compete with the Black Label Association in a short period of time. I am just looking for you to fill up the numbers. It's just like Bai Bai who was pulled to pull the banner. It's the same as Senior Bird Saint Fist. It's not harmful to you anyway, so just accept it, Sulin shrugged. Next, is it time to help me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 109. No problem, Garen nodded. Before that, I need you to help me find where my senior sister and second senior brother are now. Before leaving, I also have to stabilize the situation in Huaishan and deal with some minor troubles. Of course, I will help you with this. I will do the official thing. Only after the little mice are completely eliminated can you have no worries. Sulin smiled in a good mood. Manratan Company, as well as that guy like Bhavani, need to be completely eliminated. In terms of management, do you want me to allocate manpower to you? By the way, there are also matters related to your uncle's family. I will deal with it together in a short time, Garen said calmly. He is no longer who he was before. With the support of Sulin's powerful forces and his own fierce strength, solving these problems is just a trivial matter. It's a pity that his parents and sister didn't know anything about him. They just thought that the exchange he went out with his master Fei Baiun was just a disguised trip. I never thought the consequences would be so serious. Sulin also saw his determination at this time. Other aspects are fine. It's just that finding Lassita and Farik is probably more troublesome. They seem to have disappeared and they can't be found at all. This will take time. It's okay. Just keep looking for me while I'm at your place. Garen didn't take it seriously. The matter between the senior sister and the second senior brother didn't happen in a day or two. He also knew there was no rush. Then this will be easier to handle. The meal was finally served, which was typical Oriental rice and stir-fried vegetables. Although the taste is very ordinary, it is in line with the taste of galleons. Sulin was very efficient. When Manlet and company withdrew from Huaishan City, he accused them of reselling cultural relics and mobilized special forces to encircle them all. Only a few elites escaped because they had received intelligence in advance. More than 10 days later, in a sparsely populated dense forest on the outskirts of Huaishan City, the last group of resistance personnel of the Manlet and company were surrounded and huddled in a temporary manner. Gunshots were fired one after another in the woods, surrounded by numerous guards. Sulin and Garin stood in the woods, looking at the surrounded white manor from a distance. Our people can't get in for the time being. The opponent's firepower is very fierce. They are not ordinary characters. They are obviously the absolute elite and the last resistance force of Manlet and company. Sulin smiled and glanced at Garin behind him. Otherwise, we can surround them like this and attack them by force, and there will probably be casualties. Garin looked at the muzzles of guns protruding from the white manor from a distance and shook his head. Forget it, I'll do it myself. He didn't wait for Sulin to answer, and strode towards the manor without any cover. With every step he took, his body expanded a little, and the surrounding soldiers made way for Garin to enter at Sulin's signal. Is this guy looking for death? He's not even wearing a bulletproof suit. Who does he think he is? A lone hero? His body is still swollen. A young soldier behind the tree trunk couldn't see and taunted in a low voice. Don't scream if you don't understand. A black-faced soldier next to him gave him a slap on the head. That gentleman is Garin, one of the 3 generals of the Nantian Holy Fist section. Isn't it something that ordinary people can resist? No matter how powerful he is, it's just one shot. The young soldier lowered his head and refused to argue with the boss. Idiot. Garin didn't hear the conversation between the two, and he strode towards the gate of the manor. It's Heavenly General Galen, a slightly trembling voice came from a shooting hole in the manor. With fear and despair. Fight them. Can't sit still and wait for death. The voice quickly dropped, and then there was deathly silence. The gunshots suddenly fell silent. Garin stood at the iron gate and felt that there were no less than a dozen guns pointed at him. Since entering the level of a fighter, his senses have become more and more acute. His sight, which does not even hide his own murderous intent, is like a burning torch in the dark night, clear and bright. For a moment, all gunfire stopped. The soldiers on Sulin's side all poked their heads out to check in confusion, only to find that the manor seemed to have given up resistance and collectively turned off the fire. What happened? Surrendered. I don't know. Why did everyone cease fire? Wait for the commander's order. Garin stood quietly at the gate, his body having swelled to 1.9 meters. This was a state he named himself. It's not as powerful as the final second stage, but its defense power is also terrifying. The sound fell silent for a moment. The sun penetrates the leaves, falls on the ground, and sways with the wind. As the gunfire stopped, the rustling sound, the crisp chirping of birds, and the faint chirping of insects all gradually echoed. Call. The breeze blew, and a few yellow leaves fell with the wind. Garin's hand slowly reached towards the tin plate door. The moment his fingers touched the door. Boom. Galen's violent stampede and gunfire sounded almost simultaneously. Violent gunfire erupted in an instant, and all firepower was focused on Garin. The gunfire was so dense that it was difficult to hear clearly which direction the sound was coming from. The heavy ironclad wooden door deformed and shattered under Garin's fist. Then it turned into countless fragments and flew inwards. 4 bullet chains in the yard locked onto galleons and fired straight at them. Clang, clang, clang. Garin braved the bullet and rushed in, covering a distance of more than 10 meters in 3 steps. Punch a one-eyed man holding a submachine gun. With a snap, the blood and brain matter splashed out from the head. A gunshot stopped suddenly, followed by the second and third courses. Each gunshot went silent under Garen's rapid movement. Although his speed is slower than that of powerful martial artists, it is not comparable to that of ordinary people. And the bullet hitting him was like hitting a steel plate, without any effect. Finally, the last manlet and company elite collapsed. He choked with sobs, tears and snot running all over his face, and he was unconscious. He looked at Garen rushing towards him, and the terrifying huge figure quickly enlarged in his eyes. He laughed nervously and took out a black thing from his waist like lightning. "Let's die together. Hey, let's die together." He pulled the tab hard. "Hold it in your hand." Garen looked indifferent and hit his right hand holding the grenade with the palm. Bang! The entire right arm was torn apart and was blown away far away. Blood spattered and fell in the far corner. Boom! The grenade exploded, and a large pile of soil spread everywhere with the smell of gunpowder smoke. Garen grabbed the opponent's neck with one hand and lifted him up into the air. This elite maniacally shot Garen in the chest with a self-defense pistol. Death struggle he exerted slight force, and with a click, the neck bones were crushed. Throwing away the body in his hands, Garen strode towards the inner door of the courtyard. The gunshots and bullets from the second floor were still hitting him one after another, and black grenades were dropped from time to time. Bang bang bang. Only the grenades that were particularly close were knocked away by Garen, while the grenades that were further away did not pose any threat to him. Explosions continued to sound all around, but they made no sense at all. Standing in front of the inner door, he dug with his fingers and dug out a large piece of the door lock and threw it away. "Push the door open and enter." The gunfire in the manor stopped, and the gunfire from Sulin's side rang out, directly suppressing the other side. The elite soldiers following Galen rushed in and poured into the small building from both sides of Galen. Garen stood at the door and looked towards the stairs to the second floor with an indifferent expression. Boom! A bullet hit his eyelid, bursting out a little golden spark. The moment he saw the opponent sneak up and shoot, he closed his eyes. With just this one shot, the faces of the soldiers pouring in around him were stunned for a moment, and the sound of gasping could be heard faintly among the soldiers. "That one just now, I want to live," Garen said calmly. Coco, the team leader who followed and stood next to Garen, felt his teeth chattering. It was not fear, but an instinctive physical reaction to danger. His body was shaking unconsciously. Garen ignored him and strode directly into the first floor of the small building. The first floor is a spacious living room, all in white, with delicate religious angel-style sculptures and patterns everywhere. A spiral staircase on the left leads upwards to the second floor. However, the soldiers who entered were suppressed at the entrance of the stairs, and the sound of gunfire exchanges could be heard from time to time. Garen ignored the others around him and walked directly up the stairs. The moment he went upstairs, the stairs collapsed. With a bang, white dust suddenly flew from the first floor, and a large amount of lime stirred up. Garen also fell back to the first floor. He raised his head and looked towards the second floor. Among the few fleeting faces, Cynthia's face was among them. This elite Manletan girl who had been the captain of his bodyguard was now in a state of disgrace, with her face covered in blood. "It's no good. I never thought that I, the Pikhus, would die in such a remote place. It's cramped, has no audience, no suitable opponents and nothing. It doesn't fit in with my majestic nickname of the assassin Pikhus at all." The only 4 people left on the second floor were guarding the stairs and windows. The leader, a scarred uncle, said with a face full of vicissitudes of life, while pulling out the scimitar on his leg and preparing for close combat. Cynthia's expression was calm. Although she was embarrassed, she still looked relaxed and at ease, even whistling silently in her mouth. I knew that the heavenly general Garen of the Nantian Holy Fist sect was dead. I knew that following you would not bring good results. Well. There was another person who sobbed softly. He was a tall and handsome man. She actually cried like a child, and his whole body was trembling with fear. Just die. Kesha is a loser. If you have time to cry, why not think about how to deal with that monster, the last black woman yelled while holding a submachine gun. Bodies were lying everywhere on the second floor. Blood dripped down the broken staircase to the first floor, and the sound of dripping water could be heard. The air was filled with the stench of blood and water, which made people sick. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 110. Cynthia looked at the other strongest captain-level companions around her. 3 of the 7 captains had died, leaving only the last 4. When she and Garen were companions before, she had no special feelings. Now that she truly stood in front of Garen as an opponent, she felt this suffocating and terrifying pressure. It was like a dark blue wave dozens of stories high coming towards you. There was no way to escape or dodge. If you faced the terrifying pressure head-on, you would only be swallowed up and submerged. The dark blue water that covered everything in his field of vision was pressing towards him, and even his breathing seemed to begin to quicken, and his body temperature began to drop. Snapped. Cynthia slapped herself hard and suddenly woke up from the pressure hallucination. "Are you about to collapse?" she whispered. This hallucination-like feeling occurs only when a nervous breakdown is imminent. She had received death training when she was very weak and was lucky enough to experience it once, but that time there was not the terrifying and suffocating pressure downstairs. Hiss. Huh. She lowered her head and began to take a deep breath. It's okay, it's okay. I can do it, and I will definitely find a way to break out, for sure. Downstairs. Garen looked up at the broken staircase on the second floor and frowned. He looked back at the soldier captain who was waiting for his orders. Punch it through. He pointed to the ceiling on the first floor. Bang 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 bang. Dozens of submachine guns fired toward the ceiling. This is a small building made of wood mixed with cement. The partition between the first and second floors is not completely concrete and can easily be pierced by the powerful impact of a submachine gun. A large number of bullets rained out from the second floor and ricocheted into the small living room on the second floor. Wow! A large celadone vase in the corner was pierced by a stray bullet and shattered into countless pieces with a crash. Cynthia and others hid in a corner and huddled together, trying to reduce their body size as much as possible, but 2 people were still beaten into a hornet's nest by bullets. There was only so much space on the second floor, and there was no way to effectively avoid them. Cynthia and the captain were considered the 2 strongest among them. The evasive method they chose in haste was the most effective, but they did not suffer much damage. One had a bloody wound on his face, and the other had his left calf shot through. At least he was lucky compared to the other 2. Ha. The sound of the 2 men's heavy breathing was extremely clear in the silent space. Cynthia. Garen's voice came up from the first floor. For me, killing you is as easy as squeezing an ant to death. Surrender, you 2 can survive this situation. I recognize your strength. Downstairs, Garen looked up at the second floor and said calmly. He really has a passion for talent. Manhattan's model is different from other companies. In order to prevent the force from being controlled by the upper management, all personnel are transferred to the team every once in a while, and they are constantly broken up and replaced. The relationship between the members is very indifferent, which is why he dares to kill the reason why so many people from Manhattan want to recruit each other. Moreover, the current Bayun sect is also lacking its own talent elite. It seems that among the 3 generals, you are the gentlest one. Cynthia's voice did not ring out, but instead came the voice of another old man. Garen waved the soldiers to disperse. Talk to the person on the second floor alone. So, have you met the other 2 generals? Of course. They are powerful and ruthless. Once they are determined to be enemies, they will never leave any room, the man answered calmly. But you are different. You will change the best solution based on the calculation of interests because of your mood or other reasons. Right. Garen laughed unconsciously. It's very good. You are indeed a talented person who can survive until now. If you join my Bayun sect, I will give you a suitable position. Choose, join, or die. If you don't join, you'll die. Do you think you're giving us a choice? Cynthia said sarcastically. Death is also a choice, Garen nodded calmly. But who told your company to betray me first? Don't you think it's too naive for a force that knows my information to want to safely escape from my sphere of influence? Silence fell on the second floor. Not long after, there were two sounds of firearms being dropped on the floor. Garen put his hands in his trouser pockets, turned around and walked towards the door. He had already heard the answer from the breathing of the two people. Go up and bring these two down for treatment and training. Yes, the soldier captain quickly saluted Garen and spoke to Garen at close range. Reminiscent of the exaggerated scene just now, the captain had listed Garen as someone who must not be provoked. Sulin walked in from the front of the courtyard. It's over. Well, it's over here, Garen nodded, took off the tattered t-shirt on his upper body, and put on the t-shirt of the same style that was handed over to him. Aren't you afraid they will trick you? It doesn't matter. If you want to gain something, you have to take the risk of losing it. Next is. Let's take a look at Bhavini's side, Garen said calmly. He has now been tortured to death by people from the underworld, Sulin gloated. There is no way. Who told him to announce his separation from Bayun sect? An industry without strength protection is just a piece of fat. It's a pity. If Mr. Bhavini is still a member of my Bayun sect, I will definitely help with all my strength and punish the excessively rampant gangster. But now, it's none of my business, Garen laughed. Sometimes I wonder if you are 17 years old, Sulin laughed silently. There will always be some people in this world who are called geniuses. Unfortunately, I am such a person, Garen boasted without blushing. Blow it, Sulin patted him silently. The two turned around and walked in the direction they came from, quickly disappearing into the woods. A few days later, Garen sat cross-legged in the middle of the martial arts performance hall of Bayun Main Hall, his eyes closed tightly. Opposite him were Kei-Ling and Simon, who were also sitting cross-legged on the ground. Apart from this, there was no one else in the entire hall, which could accommodate 200 people. Recently, Garen has felt more and more that his martial arts has gradually entered an unpredictable stage. His whole body's energy, blood, and spirit are in harmony, as if all the strengths that he had not explored before are gradually being discovered and used. The human body is a huge treasure house, he said slowly. The two people on the opposite side suddenly became energetic and listened attentively. Being able to get personal guidance from the current Garen is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even ordinary people can unleash amazing power as long as they can fully tap into their potential. Garen said softly with his eyes closed. The method I teach you is to use it in training exercises. Spend half an hour every day sitting quietly and feel the good and bad effects of exercise throughout your body. My Bayun sect secret martial arts is strong and powerful, but I don't have enough solid strength. I only realized this recently. It's hard to find a suitable secret martial arts for solid cultivation at the moment, so I can only use this method first. You guys sit quietly for half an hour. Students will naturally remind you when the time comes. Yes, senior brother. They both answered at the same time, closing their eyes together. They would not have any doubts about Galen's words, because their actual progress had already told them the correctness of the method. Garen slowly stood up and walked towards the downstairs of the martial arts hall. Simon and Kei-Ling are the two core disciples he has recently cultivated. There are many core disciples of Bayun sect, but they are the best. If you want to cultivate two capable people in a short period of time, these two people have the best hope. Fortunately, the two of them also knew that this was a critical period for Bayun sect, and they both needed strong military support. Therefore, they are making rapid progress. Originally, they had no shortage of basic skills, but now under Garen's personal guidance, their progress is naturally rapid. Boys and girls who have exceeded their age can compete with adult warriors. Simon went for a test a few days ago and found that his amateur rank has reached 6th Dan, which is considered a qualified level among ordinary adult warriors. After all, the second senior brother Farik was only at the amateur 9th Dan level. In comparison, K Ling is about the same. Both of them are improving at a visible speed almost every day. However, Garen could see that Simon's limit was only 7th level. He had broken an arm, and if he continued to practice, he would be born with shortcomings and weaknesses. If he didn't have extremely strong willpower to persevere in the future, he would probably be like this for the rest of his life. However, K Ling may still make progress. Since his return, he has accepted two people as his disciples. Under his unreserved training, K Ling has great potential, and he might be able to reach the level of a senior sister before the age of 25. Of course, it refers to Rosita's apparent strength after she hides it. Even Garen doesn't know what her real strength is. After all, I have never seen her take action with all her strength. All in all, Master, Senior Sister, and Inverse 10 stars should all be at the critical point of being a fighter. It is the so-called E-class peak. The so-called grade, D grade is the limit, and the grades above are not actually used to evaluate people. In other words, the original letter grade was the grade used by various countries to evaluate thermal weapons. E level refers to small firearms such as pistols, and D level refers to medium-sized firearms. Further up are more powerful thermal weapons. It's just that martial arts masters who are unwilling to be eliminated by history don't want to withdraw from the stage of history. They use the level of thermal weapons to evaluate their own strength. They just want to prove that martial arts can reach a level that is not inferior to thermal weapons. Unfortunately, the highest level is D level. When he reached the entrance and exit stairs, Garen turned back and looked at the two of them again. In a short time, just the two of them will be able to completely stabilize the local situation in the martial arts school. This so-called stabilization refers to daily challenges, teaching, training, and solving puzzles. Are you planning to leave? At the bottom of the stairs, Cynthia leaned against the wall and played with a sharp dagger. She gently spun the dagger into a silver wheel, and then accurately grasped the handle of the dagger. Hold it in your hand. The sound of whirring through the air continued one after another. Where's Jack? The car has been arranged, we can go directly. Jack was the Scarface captain who surrendered together.